So I had a question on how do we get onto the Google Meet. Excellent question. I guess I'll add some notes about how to do that up here. Just go to meet.google.com and you type in Wojcik math. I will post that on here, okay? Here, I can even add it right now. You can just watch this happen. And I'm also just kind of waiting for Jacob to log on. Let's see what he does. Click here for my Google Meet and join with the code Wojcik Math. Easy enough? Link it out. There we go. It's right here on the side. Colin is like showing little pictures. They can't see you. I don't have, this is on my Chromebook. Here's the class. Everyone, you can wave to them. Anyone want to wave to everyone at home? You know, it's going to be you in 2 days, right? You're going to be the ones like goofing off, making funny pictures. What? Yeah, they're looking right at you right now. Wave to them. Give them a wave. Yeah, wave to them. There it is. Yep, they appreciated that. And Colin is holding up a stick drawing on a note card of some trees, a bumblebee, a flower, and the sun. And we're still waiting for Jacob, so might as well, right? Okay, so whenever you are in class on the virtual day at home, just log on to your school Chromebook and just sign in with your school email address and just leave it up. And I'm automatically going to share my screen to you. So it automatically pops up. I'm doing that through GoGuardian. That's why it has to be on your Chromebook. I just sent you guys an email about this earlier this morning. But just be logged in, and I will send you my screen that's up there. The Google Meet is, I guess it's optional. That's just your way to communicate with me. So that if you have a question or need me to go over something again, just log into the Google Meet, and you can either unmute yourself and just start talking. That's probably the best way because I'd hear it. Or you can just type in the Google Meet, and hopefully I will see it, but not always. Oh, Vegas says hi to everyone. Hi, Vegas. You got a couple waves. Oh, and not the virtual people. I don't think Vegas was talking to you. Sorry, Colin. And so I'll be able to see it if you type it. If not, if I'm still teaching, just unmute and be like, Wojcik, stop. Hang on, I got a question. Then I'll answer it. So that's just what the Meet is for. I'm not going to be sharing anything through it. That's just our like open line of communication. For the most part, it's just going to be me sharing my screen out to you at home, and you can just watch it. You can go to different tabs and everything like that. It'll just pop up as like a single Google tab or a Chrome tab. It's going to be like what I'm presenting, but you can still switch to other ones. So most of this class, Colin, this is very distracting. It's not fair because they don't get to see it. Man. Okay, hang on. I have children. There we go. All right, Colin, you win. Everybody sees you. That's Colin, everyone. Yep, you win. The sky guy bird. Did you just add those mountains in? That was really fast. Colin, why are you doing this? So what I was saying before Colin so rudely interrupted us and danced. Yeah, by the way, you are on the smartboard. Everyone is staring at just you, like your full giant screen. So be good. What is the foot?
It's from robotics.
From robotics. Aw, that's gross. Anyways, like I was trying to say, is that look at those mad pen twirling skills. If you see on Colin's screen up there, he's got a desktop computer behind him that I'm guessing he prefers to use for his coding. And when you're at home, chances are a lot of you do have nicer computers than a Chromebook, you know, things like a mouse, which is super useful. So if you want to do your coding on that, that's fine, but you'll need to have your Chromebook open and logged in because that's how I'm sharing out this presentation through GoGuardian. So you've got to have the Chromebook to get the lesson, but then you can do your programming through whichever other means you want. Make sense? Sam. All right. All right, Colin. Nope, you're done now. You're losing privileges. Yep, no one can see you now. You're just embarrassing yourself. All right, so back to P-Learning. Jacob still isn't logged on. Oh well. Google Meet info here. Bring your Chromebook. Virtual days. You guys know all this. Now, the one thing that you may want to use, like I said, for this class is a lot of it is going to be just self-paced, self-directed, especially at the beginning, because most of you, if not all of you, have already had computer programming. Otherwise, you're all extremely advanced students. You're all very good at logic and math and that type of thinking. So I don't need to spend too much time teaching you a lot of this stuff first semester. I'll go over some of the basics and just kind of quick summaries, but for the most part, you'll just be working at your own pace. Now, to figure out where you should be each day, on my P-Learning page, if you go to the calendar right here, I'll always put like our main ideas for the day. And if you click on it, I'll tell you what you should be getting through. So before the next class period, you should get through these lessons here on CodeHS. So you should have enough time to do it in class, but if you miss a day or maybe you, I don't know, maybe you're stuck on a concept and it's taking you a bit longer than that, that's fine. Just make sure you get these done before our next class period. So like anything you don't finish in class would be homework technically, but that's just a way to keep us all on pace. Okie dokie? Cool. So I guess we'll jump into it. Has anyone seen Jacob? All right. AP Computer Science Principles in JavaScript. So I believe I mentioned this last week, but AP Computer Science Principles, it's a newer course and it has parts of computer programming in it, and that's the majority of it is computer programming, but it also has a lot of other parts of computer science, data, internet, networking, things like that, which is really cool. But we'll get to that like second semester-ish. For now, we're going to start by learning JavaScript. And the cool thing about this course is we're actually allowed to teach it in any language at all. And we are choosing to do it in JavaScript because a lot of you are familiar with it. If you've been in all my classes from year to year, then last year, anyone who took my intro course, it was JavaScript. So this is like a natural transition for those students. It'll help you reinforce those JavaScript skills. Or if you're new to it, it's a very simple language. Again, I teach it in my intro class. Anyone new to it can catch on just fine. For those of you at home, I'm looking at half of the students in my classroom right now who have not had JavaScript yet. Half of them. Isn't that insane? It's only 2 people. So in CodeHS, there's a pre-test. This will be really fun for you to take. You can just quickly go through this on your own time whenever. This is the main stuff we're doing. These first unit, this introduction to programming, is all these lessons dealing with, as you see in this icon right here, this beautiful dog who's named Karel, named after some Czechoslovakian programmer named Karel Čapek or something like that. I think it's pronounced Čapek, but I'll double check on that. And Karel's a dog that follows your commands, and we can teach Karel to do a bunch of different stuff. And the idea is that programming a computer, you have to be very direct, very deliberate. And so it's very similar to telling a dog what to do. You have to be very deliberate, very direct with all of your commands. So we're going to start by learning a bunch of JavaScript through Karel, the basic structure of it, how your program is supposed to look, how it runs, things like that, with an actual dog on the screen that can move around, can put down tennis balls, can pick them up, stuff like that, just to make basically some like coding puzzles that help you figure things out. Once we get through Karel, then we're going to get into real JavaScript. We'll have some programs that are all just text-based. Maybe it prompts the user to type in some numbers or names or some words or something like that, and the program will be able to interact with that. Or you can use graphics where you can make pictures and objects and balls and snowmen and all kinds of fun things. That's basically when we get into the game design, where we're going to be making games, which is super duper fun. And all of this is because we are going to need, for the AP exam, to create an actual program. It doesn't have to be a game. It's got to be a computer program. And it can be in any language. I'm teaching you JavaScript, but if you have a different language that you prefer, that you know, by all means, you can definitely use that. If you want to use Java or Python, or if you know C++ or anything else that you have learned on your own, that's fine. But know that my specialties and my limitations are just Java, JavaScript, and Python. And so I'll be able to help you with those three languages. If you use a different language, I might not be able to. I had a student 2 years ago who decided to make his own app with the Android, app developer kit, which is super duper cool, the Android toolkit. I know nothing about that though, so he was kind of on his own. Those of you who are wondering, it was Jack Katina, if you remember him from like 2 years ago, maybe. You do? Yeah. And so he made his own app on his phone. It was called Where to Poop. And it was an app that used GPS locator, that if you found a really good public restroom, you could put a little pin in it and keep it in that app and share it with others who have the Where to Poop app so that they would know where a quality public restroom was located. And he made it and it worked. And I was very impressed and grossed out all at the same time. Those don't exist. Public restrooms? They're typing chat. Very good public restrooms. Oh, not great public restrooms? Oh, no good ones at all. Okay. So I am not going to go through a lot of these Karel lessons. They're pretty simplistic. What I'm going to do right now is just go into what's called the sandbox, which on CodeHS, it's just like an open coding area where you can type in whatever you want. You can program whatever you want in any languages. It's not like a specific challenge or a specific task you have to accomplish. It's a great place for you to, just like in a normal sandbox, to play, to see what you can do with codes. So I'm going to demo some of the basics with Karel, covering these first like 6 skills, and then I'm going to let you just go through these on your own and do the challenges. So let's dive in. I can't wait. Whatever you want. So I'm going to call this basic Karel demo and hit create program. Once you do that, choose your language. So we're going to use JavaScript. We have Karel, Super Karel, Ultra Karel, a lot of Karels. We're starting with just basic old Karel. This is regular JavaScript graphics or JavaScript in the console and all kinds of fun stuff. And there's a bunch of other programming languages here that you can see. And if you ever want to, you can go into the sandbox, check out any one of these languages and use the like the documentation tab, which is a bunch of like commands and tips and things. If you ever want to be like, hey, how does C++ work? Well, you can go in here and check it out. And so one of the things I'm going to recommend to you is I don't expect all of you to take like this entire class period to get through our challenges, but I really don't want you moving too far ahead. I want to try to keep most of you at the same place. So what I recommend is going to the sandbox and experimenting with some of these other languages. Look into C++ or SQL or React Native or Pygame or A-Frame, HTML, and just teach yourself something new. I hope that you're in this class because you enjoy computer science and you want to learn more about it. And the biggest thing to help you with that is just to mess around, to play, to explore things on your own. So I really encourage you to do that so you're not just completing the task and then you just shut down and want to play, Tetris for the rest of class, although that would be kind of cool, but only if you programmed it yourself. Oh yeah, that's my other rule of thumb. In class, the only games you're allowed to play are the ones that you programmed yourself. Deal? Especially you, Colin. So I'm creating my Karel program here. And this is the code editor. This is where I can type whatever I want. And then I can run the program over here. And obviously it doesn't work because this word is not an actual program command. And so let's learn all about Karel the dog. So this is Karel down here. Karel's awesome. She is currently in this world that's this 10 by 10 grid, and she's facing to the east or to the right. And we can command Karel with some basic orders. Whenever you type a command, you're going to tell Karel what to do. Now, the most common thing we can have Karel do is simply move. And that's just going to have Karel move forward wherever she's facing. If I run this, well, nothing happens. Because programming languages have a specific way that they need to be typed in. This is called syntax. And syntax is essentially the grammar of a programming language. Just like if I were speaking in a sentence such as, let me take one of my sentences here. So this sentence right here has specific words in a specific order that the way that I read it to you or type it to you, it makes sense according to English grammar mechanics. Subject, verbs, agreements, punctuation, capitalization, stuff like that. It makes sense when I read it to you. However, if I read this in just a random order, I would say, this we and computer cybersecurity will all learning the of computer, including science we be all about. That sentence didn't make any sense to you because I didn't have all the words in the correct order. I didn't use the proper syntax for that to make sense to you. With a computer program, you've got to have different words or whatever you type has to be written a very specific way for the computer to understand it. Just like a sentence in English has to be formatted a certain way for you to understand it. So whenever you type a command, it's going to have an open and a closed parenthesis after it, followed by a semicolon. And that semicolon just lets the program know this is the end of this line of code in JavaScript. Now, if I run the program, you can see that Karel moves forward one space. I can type several of these. And when I run my program, you'll see on the left that JavaScript is going to highlight each line one at a time in yellow. Each time it highlights it, it executes the command over here in Karel's world. I can reset it. These arrows allow me to step through one line at a time. So here, if I have an issue somewhere in my program and I'm wondering, hey, why is this not doing what I want it to do? I can step through one line of code at a time to see, oh, this is where the issue is happening. What is Karel doing? This slider changes the speed. So usually I go up to super bunny speed. So when I run it, it goes lightning fast. And she just kind of runs the whole way. Sometimes on some of the exercises that you'll have on CodeHS, there's going to be different worlds, meaning like this grid will be set up differently. Maybe there's some obstacles you have to get over. And your challenge is to make one program that works for a variety of scenarios. So we're going to learn later on some commands or some control structures that allow the program to choose two different options. Just like on a website, if you've got a menu, you might have three options. And well, you've got to program it to go to three different sites based on which option is selected. So same thing with Karel. You can program multiple options based on the scenario, based on what happens. Now, another command that you can have Karel do is she can turn left, which is great. So I'm going to have Karel move and then turn left. Oh, that's still on hyperspeed. Here we go. She moves forward, turns left. So Karel's now facing up or north. Some things about this command. Notice how turn left is written as one word. If I separate it into two words, we get an issue. Because in JavaScript, a white space kind of, it looks like that is a separate word. It doesn't understand that a space is not connecting these two words together. So what we do is we write the command as if it were one word, but notice how right here, this capital letter L for the second word left, this is a specific programming style called lower camel case, meaning whenever we write a command, we always type it all lowercase if it's just a single word. If there's a new word, we then capitalize the next one to let us know when the next word is, to make it a bit more readable. The one reason we don't capitalize single words or the first letter is because programmers are lazy, and it would be a pain in the butt to hold shift every time I started a new line. Just keep it all lowercase all the time. So move and turn left. There are two other commands Karel has. She can put a ball down. Notice this is also written in lower camel case. The word put is lowercase, but then the next word, I start with a capital letter and then write ball. Run it, move, turn left, and she puts a ball down. So there's that tennis ball right there. I can have Karel move, and I can have her put a ball down again. Oh, so right here, I ran it, and I had an error. Usually, the compiler or the programming site here, it's got pretty good intuition as to what you did right or wrong, or where there's an error. So it says, hey, line 5, you made a typo. You probably meant to put ball. Now, the suggestions it gives you aren't always correct, especially in later programs. You'll learn that because it can't understand everything going on in a larger program. And so right here it says, hey, I forgot to use lower camel case. So I have a lowercase b. It should have been a capital B. So then I run this, puts a ball, moves, puts another ball. Now let's say I wanted to go back down there. I can turn left twice, move down, and then my fourth and final command is called take ball, which will have Karel pick up that ball. So she puts one down, moves up, puts another tennis ball down, turns around, goes down, and picks up that ball again. See how it's gone now? Those are your 4 commands. That is all Karel knows how to do. But your challenges are going to have Karel have to do a lot more than just those things. So what if I wanted Karel to go back to the start right here? Which direction would Karel need to turn to get back to this original starting spot? Emma, would she turn right or left? Let's try it. So if she turns left, we'll go a little faster. Takes the ball, and left is there. So you want to try to orient yourself in terms of the way she's facing. So if Karel were looking straight down, then Karel's left would be over here. Her right would be over this way. So we want her to turn right instead. So I'm going to type turn right. Ready? Oh no, but that's not a command Karel knows. Colin, what do we do? He doesn't know. He shrugged his shoulders. You could. You can turn left 3 times. And initially you'll do that. But again, I'm moving on. I'm going to show you some additional things we can do with computer programming. So turning left 3 times will get the job done. But in programming, that's kind of an inefficient way to code, right? Why am I typing something that takes 3 lines of code when I want to do it in 1? Turn right should be a command. It's going to make sense for the program that I'm creating for what I want to do. But maybe the programming language you're using doesn't have that specific command built in. So what we can do in JavaScript in most languages is make a new command. And in most programming languages, these are called functions or methods. In JavaScript, this is called a function. Similar to like in a math class, you have a function that can change numbers or whatever. In coding, we have functions that can also do things and make output or whatever. So we don't have this turn right command. It does not exist yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach Karel how to make this. This is called defining a function. To do that, we write the word function, and notice how it changed color. It's like purple here. That's because function is a reserved word in JavaScript. It's special, so I couldn't use that to like name something else or to make a new command. So by writing function, JavaScript knows, oh, I'm making a new command for Karel. Then we name it whatever we want. We want to call it turn right. Notice how I have the open and close parentheses, but now there's something different. with all these lines of code up here, they always ended with a semicolon. Isn't a command. I'm not telling Karel on line 12, hey, I want you to turn right. Instead, I'm providing the instructions for Karel. I'm saying, hey, if you ever want to turn right, here's what you're going to do. And Karel can refer to this function to do it. So since it's not a command, we don't put a semicolon at the end. What we're going to do instead is a curly bracket. And so I've got these curly brackets here. There's an open one up top and then an ending one down here. Now, everything in the middle, this can be as big or as small as I want it. These are all the lines of code that will run whenever I want Karel to turn right in this case. Now, Emma, you said earlier, how can she turn right using just turn left? How many times do we have to turn left? 3 times, right? 3 left turns makes a right turn. So we made a new function here called turn right. Now, if we run the program, okay, so I'm going to pause it right here. So it's on line 9 right now, and it's taking the ball. So I'm going to run this, and notice Karel took the ball. Now when I step forward, it's now executing the turn right command. Now before, Karel didn't know what to do. This wasn't a command she was born with. She didn't know how to turn right. So what the program's going to do is take a look. When I step forward, look how it jumps down into this function. And it's going to execute these lines of code, whatever's inside those 2 curly brackets for turn right. And Karel will turn left, 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 and it's essentially the same thing as turning right. Now, I can have Karel move, and she will end up back at home right where I wanted her to go. Da-da-da, we did it. Some things, these functions can be written anywhere. I can include a bunch of spaces. I could put it down there. If I wanted to, I could take this chunk of code and I could put it at the top, or I could put it right here in the middle, and the program will still run. But just notice, as I'm running through these lines of code, it's always going to execute from top to bottom, but just the commands. So here she's moving, turning left, but then look how the cursor completely jumps over this entire function. See, it's not running it because, again, this isn't a command. This is a function definition. It's just there for reference in case Karel needs to figure out how to do it. In general, we would keep all these like down at the end of our program. All right, and all this stuff is just kind of loose, floating in here. Now you can make functions to do anything that you want, but you always want to try to be descriptive. So function, maybe put 3 balls down, that I want Karel to put down 3 tennis balls. And so I can do put ball 3 times. And this is a definition. So then if I want, I can use that new command, put 3 balls. And when I run that down, Karel's going to put 3 tennis balls right down there. Now you can't really see it because she's standing on it. So if I have Karel move, you'll see putting down 3 tennis balls and moving. You see how there's a 3 there? That means there's 3 tennis balls on that spot. All right, so you can make functions do whatever you want. Now the last thing that I'm going to show you today, and then I'm going to just let you loose and just code the rest of class. And again, most classes, I'm not going to take this long. I had to do some introductory stuff. So thank you for your patience, everybody, especially you, those of you who this is like the 4th programming class you've had with me. All this code here that's loose, like whenever I run it, it always starts from line 1 and works its way down. In general, you don't want code just kind of floating in the middle of your program like this. We want everything to be contained nice and neatly inside of functions. Now, by default, it's just going to run this loose code, as we call it. But if you were coding in a different environment that wasn't like this Code.js website, maybe had a different JavaScript programming software on your computer, this wouldn't run. So what you want to do to start your program is a good way to tell it where to begin is with something called the start function. And we're going to be using that with JavaScript for the rest of the year. So you always want to begin your programs by writing function start, open and close parentheses, and then do your curly bracket and just give it a few spaces down. So function start. The unique thing about the start function is that you don't need to call it somewhere. I don't need to tell Karel, hey, Karel, go do the start function. By default, whenever you click the run button here, it's automatically going to look for the start function and run all the commands inside there. So I want to take all these lines of code that are just loose and floating, and I want to place them all inside of my start function. Now, you might notice how with these functions, I tabbed over or I indented it. That's just a stylistic tool that programmers always use whenever they've got a function. Usually you'll indent one space or one tab over all the commands or lines of code that are inside of that function, just to help it become more readable and let you see things go together. Now up here, see it when I copied and pasted, just this line was tabbed over and these ones aren't. That's why there's all this yellow here. And if you highlight it, hover over it, it tells you should indent this line forward. You can do it one at a time, but if you want a shortcut, if you just highlight all of these together and press tab, it'll tab it over. If you tab too far, just press and hold shift and hit tab, and you can go like a back tab. And then you've got it, no more yellow. The program will still do the exact same thing. It's just nice and clean because it's all in a start function now. And that's what I want you to get through today. Any questions? All right. Then the rest of the time is yours to code. Grab out your Chromebooks, or if you're at home, you guys are all coding. That's awesome. Keep up the good work. I'll be here if you have any questions. And have some fun. If you get through lesson 1.6 on the start function, I would like you to pause and not move on. I know it's going to be tough for some of you, but then feel free to work on other stuff or just play around in the sandbox. Colin, do you have a blanket on? Just checking. Good job. All right. Then if there are no other questions, I will be around. Have fun.